We move on to the welterweights. At number 1 in the world, we have the UFC champion, George Rush St-Pierre. He'll fight the number 2 guy in the world, Carlos Condit, on the 17th of this month. At number 3 in the world, we have the bad boy from Stockton, California, Nick Diaz. There's been rumors that Diaz will fight Josh Koscheck sometime in 2013 after his suspension is up in February. Johnny Hendricks is the number 4 welterweight in the world. He'll fight Martin Kampmann on the 17th of this month. At number 5, we have Josh Koscheck. At number 6, we have John Fitch with a beautiful victory over Eric Silva on the 13th of this month. At number 7, we have Martin Kampmann, who will fight on November 17th, as I mentioned, against Johnny Hendricks. At number 8, we have Rory McDonald, who will fight BJ Penn in December. At number 9, the Strikeforce welterweight champion, Nate Marquardt. And at number 10, a new entrant into the top 10 is Damian Maia. This knocks Jake Ellenberger out of the top 10 at welterweight. He looked okay in his last fight, but he was coming off a loss to Martin Kampmann, got knocked out by Kampmann, then beat Jay Hiron, but Hiron is not a top 10 guy, and he went the distance with Hiron in October. Damian Maia looking brilliant, submitting Rick Story in the first round, just destroying him. So Maia was a honorable mention last month, and now 2-0 at welterweight. Damian Maia has looked brilliant at 170 pounds, so he enters the top 10 this month at number 10, which knocks the number 9 Jake Ellenberger out of the 9th spot and bumps up Nate Marquardt from number 10 to number 9. The reason why Marquardt is ranked ahead of Damian Maia is because they fought in the UFC, and it resulted in a knockout victory for Nate the Great Marquardt. So Damian Maia enters the top 10 at welterweight.
I don't disagree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd like to see a little bit more Nate Marquardt. I'd like Strikeforce to be not canceling their events and to see really what Nate Marquardt can do in that welterweight division. Damian Maia has won 3 in a row at welterweight, 2 in a row rather. 2 in a row at welterweight, looking just fantastic, looking like a real force to be reckoned with, and a guy that could climb those rankings. I'd like to see Maia step up and take on a big-name fight, perhaps the winner of Koscheck Diaz, perhaps the winner of Rory BJ Penn. There are so many great possibilities for him. John
Fitch, I think, is a fight that should happen. Damian Maia versus John Fitch, just based on how good they both looked in their last fights. Fitch fighting on the 13th of this month. Damian Maia fought rather on the same card, so they're both on pretty much the same schedules. I think it should be Maia versus Fitch, number 6 in the world versus number 10. I think that would be an awesome fight.
It definitely would be. The great wrestling skill, but of John Fitch, would he really want to take Damian Maia down with those slick submissions? But you saw in that Eric Silva fight that John Fitch almost can't be submitted, escaping those rear naked chokes. But Eric
Silva is not Damian Maia.
Yes, exactly. The ace that is Damian Maia definitely would make for an interesting bout.
Let's get to the lightweights. Benson Henderson, number 1 lightweight in the world. He's the UFC champ, fighting Nate Diaz on December the 8th on Fox. At number 2 in the world, we have Frankie Edgar. He's supposed to drop at some point to fight Jose Aldo. Actually, that fight taking place on February the 2nd of 2013 for that UFC featherweight title. So when Edgar drops, he'll drop out of the lightweight rankings and go down to the featherweight rankings. We have number 3 in the world at 155 pounds, Gray Maynard. He'll fight Joe Lozon on December 29th. At number 4, we have the Strikeforce champion, Gilbert Melendez. At number 5, we have the number 1 contender in that UFC division, Nate Diaz. At number 6, we have Showtime, Anthony Pettis. At number 7, the Carpenter, Clay Guida. Guida also expected to drop down to featherweight. He'll drop out of the lightweight rankings when he does so. At number 8, we have Jim Miller. At number 9, we have Donald Cerrone. And at number 10, we have Michael Chandler. So there is the top 10, no movement in that division. Michael Chandler, of course, the number 10 guy, is the Bellator champion. And he'll fight Rick Hahn in his next fight. Still no word on when that fight will take place. We move down to 145 pounds in the featherweight division. Jose Jr. Aldo, the number 1 featherweight in the world, 21-1. He's the UFC champion. At number 2, we have Chad Money Mendez, who will fight Hakran Diaz, a very tough guy, and an honorable mention in our list. They'll fight on December 15th at UFC on FX6. That is a sick fight that just got booked this month. We have number 3 in the world, Eric Koch, who'll fight Ricardo Lamas on December 29th. At number 4, we have Chan Sung Jung. At number 5, we have Ricardo Lamas. At number 6, we have the 18-5 Cub Swanson. At number 7, we have 26-5 Hatsu Hioki. At number 8, we have Darren Elkins, who we spoke to on Wednesday night, who, of course, fight Steven Seiler on the 17th of November right here in Montreal. At number 9, we have Diego Nunez, who looked very good with a decision victory over Bart Palashevsky on October the 5th. And at number 10, we have the Bellator featherweight champion, Pat Curran, who's set to take on Patricio Pitbull at some point, most likely in 2013. We move along now to the Bantamweight division. At number 1 in the world, the UFC Bantamweight champion, Dominic Cruz. At number 2, we have Hanan Barao. At number 3, we have Uriah Faber. At number 4, Brian Bowles. And at number 5, Michael McDonald. Here's the problem with the top 5 at Bantamweight right now. None of them have their next fight scheduled. Hanan Barao fought in July. He's the new interim champion, and he's going to wait for Dominic Cruz. All right, I understand that. That's cool. Dominic Cruz isn't fighting for a while. He's hurt. Makes total sense. Uriah Faber hasn't fought since July. He doesn't have his next fight scheduled. Brian Bowles.
Because it's not a title fight.
I guess. I don't know what the deal is. Brian Bowles hasn't fought since November of last year. He still doesn't have another fight. And Michael McDonald hasn't fought since April, and he still doesn't have another fight. So hopefully some of these guys get some fights. Just put Bowles against McDonald and get it over with.
Well,
number 4 against number 5, man. I want to see that fight.
Bowles has always seemed to me like the type of fighter where a very good fighter, but whenever he's plagued with any type of injury, it's an extremely long layoff. He had a long layoff when he lost the title to Dominic Cruz, came back, won a fight, very impressive fashion, followed that up by losing to Uriah Faber and being dominated by Faber, and now we are literally like
almost a year,
17 days away from it being an exact year.
So I don't know what Brian Bowles is doing. Hopefully we see him in the octagon sooner rather than later. He's at number 4. At number 5, Michael McDonald. At number 6, we have Brad Pickett. At number 7, we have Ivan Menjivar, who will fight Azamat Gashimov on November 17th here in Montreal. We have number 8, Scott Jurgensen. At number 9, we have Eddie Wineland, who'll be fighting the number 6 Brad Pickett in December at UFC 155. And at number 10, we have 12-3 Bibiano Fernandez. And finally, we move down to the Flyweight division. So there was no movement again in the Bantamweight division. Only movement this month actually came in the Welterweight and here in the Flyweight division. At number 1, we have the UFC Flyweight champion, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, who will fight John Dodson in his next fight. Number 2, we have Joseph Benavidez, who suffered that split decision loss to Demetrius to lose the UFC Flyweight Championship bout. At number 3, we have Uncle Creepy Ian McColl. At number 4, we have Chris Carriasso. At number 5, we have the number 1 contender, John Dodson, who picked up an impressive TKO victory over Jussier da Silva on October 5th. At number 6, we have Luis Gaudino. At number 7, Darren Uyenoyama. At number 8, Yasuhiro Urashitani. At number 9, a new entrant into the top 10, 14-2, Jussier da Silva Formiga. He takes the spot of Josh Ferguson, who is on a losing streak of 3 fights in a row and is coming off a loss and has been released by the UFC. So Ferguson bumped out of the top 10. Jussier Formiga takes his spot at number 9, and remaining at number 10 this month is 19-6, John Lineker. Lineker will actually be fighting 1 week from tomorrow night at UFC on Fuel TV 6 in Macau, China. It'll be John Lineker versus Yasuhiro Urashitani. So that going down November the 10th, a big-time UFC card going down 1 week from tomorrow night. Kung Lee versus Rich Franklin in the main event. So that is the top 10 in every weight class. That's the Ringside Report official top 10 rankings